pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call. Bob.
Here.
Dave.
Here.
Russ.
Russ is
Russ is excused.
in California.
Yeah. Kevin.
I don't know, I didn't hear from him.
It's working.
He
And,
didn't call
and Carolyn.
here. Visitors. Any remarks from our visitors? Comments from the audience?
Carolyn?
Yes.
Allison Mayu, 645 Birch. Are comments going to be limited to this portion of the meeting, or will we be able to make a comment when pertinent business information or business topics come up?
Only now. Linda. So you have one?
That was you. First of all, I question the timing of this meeting when everybody else is working, so there's a limited amount of participation from the township. Second, I want to comment that we have elected 5 people to run the business of the township, and I see that we have a lawyer that is on at every township meeting at some expense to the township. And I just question that if the 5 people we have who are elected to run this township or to do the business of the township feel incapable of doing it as elected, then I question why we have these people as our town chair, supervisors. Thirdly, I just wish to remind the board that at the town meeting in April, we did vote by a 2-to-1 margin to offer having elected clerk and elected treasurer for the township of McMillan. I think if anyone looks over the last 3 to 4 years at the turmoil and turnover of clerk/treasurer, I think it has resulted in a lot of the confusion that's going on currently, and probably why one of the reasons that we may have an attorney at our meeting. I think that having an elected clerk and an elected treasurer would, A, ensure that this is a community member, resident of McMillan Township, with an interest of the McMillan Township in mind, and responsive to the will of the people of the Township of McMillan, rather than running the risk of having to incur favor with the board because they were appointed. I'm not saying that's happened, but it just frees up that suspicion. Everybody can take a deep breath and know that and if they don't do the right job, well then we can vote them down, but a majority, I can't remember what the lawyer said, it was 80 to 85% of townships in the state have elected positions there. So I would ask that you remember what the will of the people was, that those who bothered to attend that meeting. Thank you.
Carolyn, could I get your last name for the record, please?
Mayu, Mayeux.
Allison?
Yes, ma'am.
Her first name is Allison.
He said, I think he misspoke.
Yeah, I did.
He called you
Allylson.
I'd like to respond to at least one of the comments. That's okay?
Yes.
Okay. So the comment was made that there's a concern that perhaps the elected officials are unable to carry out their work. I feel very comfortable in this position. I'm the newest member of the board. One of the other board members was elected recently, but I believe he was on the board previously, so he's had a lot of experience. So I'm perhaps the least experienced board member. I feel very comfortable in this position, and I feel like I'm able to do my job. However, I also feel it's very important to have an attorney present at these meetings. I've been privy to serious criminal allegations against board members that, in my opinion, turn out to be unfounded. But we need to get to the bottom of those allegations. And when serious legal allegations are made against the town board and members of the board, no, I'm not going to serve on the board unless there is legal representation here.
Can I come in?
May I comment? Well, I think that sort of answers the question she was asking. Are we gonna be having an attorney here, forever?
No.
That's what she beat me up here, unfortunately. She's quicker than I am. She's not aging as fast as I am. But if we're gonna have an attorney here forever, let's just tell people that, the rest of the planned meetings in the near future or foreseeable future, we're gonna have an attorney. If it's until or whether or not criminal allegations are ever disposed of, that's fine. But it's an expense that I don't think every township has. I don't think you go to most township meetings and there's an attorney sitting there at every meeting. And if your fear is that you need to have an attorney here because of what you just mentioned, fine. But let's just say that it's not going to be forever. It's not an expense I think the taxpayers want every meeting. I don't think I need an attorney sitting here for me to be a board member. I feel pretty good about it.
I think nobody has the expectation that there will need to be an attorney present forever. I think until the board is able to function and get past these serious criminal allegations that are made, and until things function in a manner that we're all comfortable with in that regard, I think there is the expectation there will be an attorney present. None of us appreciate the fact, well, let me rephrase. All of us appreciate the fact that this is an added expense. I don't think any of us want that expense.
Excuse me, but my understanding is that the allegations are based on stuff that happened or events that happened in years past. And, I think at these meetings, generally, from what I've seen, it's day-to-day things that need, day-to-day business that the township needs to be taken care of. So I don't think allegations are brought up in any of these meetings. Sorry.
Deb?
Okay, on the community picnic, I called the state auditor, who happens to be Randy Banzler, and his phone number is 608-270-2555. And I also called the Department of Administration with the Department of Revenue, and we do not need a license for anything for the picnic. There is no alcohol there, there is no money exchange, so they can verify that for you. If you can't get a hold of Randy, you can call Joe Grossel, or you can call Tricia Raymer. So any one of those three will be able to verify it for you. Also, I have a contract here for our DJ, which you're going to need to sign and send out to her for the community picnic. And also on the referendum, if you want that on the referendum for November, it has to be in Nan's hands at the county clerk's office on the 29th of August.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I was looking at this. What was the last comment, Deb?
For the referendum, if you want that on November's election, it has to be in Nan's hands by August 29th, worded properly.
Yes, we know that. Yes, Dorothy?
Dorothy Olson, M, 341 Fox Avenue. I just noticed it says Notice of McMillan Town Board Meeting. In the letter that you sent me, registered mail, it said this was a special town board meeting. So which way are we going to have it?
I wasn't aware you had to clarify whether it was special or a town board meeting. It's a meeting of the town board. I had asked Carolyn to hold another meeting to divide the work up that we have. The next meeting is the night before the next meeting is the night before the election, and I need to get poll workers in here at a decent hour of night. We can't afford another 3-hour meeting. So poll workers will be here after our next meeting to help set up for the election. It starts at 7 the next morning.
We're affording a meeting right now, though, and with 2 supervisors that, one's working and the other one's in California.
Well, the agenda went out, and Russ came to my house and told me after he got the agenda that he was going to be gone. So, and I never did hear from Kevin. So, I do want to respond to the attorney being here. After the suit was, or whatever you want to call it, the investigation was brought forth to the county through the sheriff's department. They went through the whole investigation. I think part of that has been signed off on, but until the district attorney signs off on the whole thing, we can't discuss any of it. However, after 2 investigations by the sheriff's department about us, they have spent a lot of money, time, and effort, and they said that their wish was that we have an attorney at all of our meetings until we get all of these issues resolved. So that's why we're doing
That's very, very
it. Yeah,
helpful.
I mean, it's appropriate, because that's what we're trying to do now, is go through some of these things that were in those allegations. So,
Bill Arneson, M641 Birch Street. I realized you've already amended the budget to compensate for the legal fees, but I have a hard time thinking that we've got the legal fees, but we don't have enough money for an audit. We haven't had an audit since, what, 2015? And yet, maybe that's reason for some of these allegations that have come up. We're spending on legal fees, but we don't have enough money to spend on an audit.
now that's incorrect. We haven't decided whether we're gonna have an audit. We can't even we have to get our ducks in a row before an auditor would even come in. Plus, you have a clerk and you have a treasurer, and we are not required to have an audit when you have a clerk and a treasurer. So we will work on that down the line. We are still trying to get our ducks in a row here with the figures. Any other comments?
Bill, what is your last name?
Arneson, Arneson.
Hmm?
Should I say anything?
Yes, go ahead, please do.
Yeah, so, you would be correct, I don't think there's any municipality I work for where I go to every single meeting. You'll find that things ebb and flow, something happens where you need the help, and the rest of the time you're able to operate sufficiently. So that's pretty normal, and yeah, we've all discussed from the start, I'm not gonna be at every meeting here forever. It is costly, so no problem there, that's been the understanding the whole way. I will just say this, as you've seen from, I think, Mike's presentation at the last meeting, and, you know, I'm glad Mike's there because he points out a lot of stuff to me that I wouldn't see otherwise because I don't work in the town office. You guys haven't had a town attorney in a while, and so just like anything else, stuff has been let go, and you got stuff to fix. And once you get it fixed, you know, then you'll probably be good for a while. State laws change, things like that, and once you let things go for a while, you got a lot to take care of. And with the issue that's already been discussed tonight with the clerk and whatnot, that requires an ordinance to get drawn up, and so, you know, that generates that work to get done. But, you know, ordinarily you don't need that going on. I agree with you. So that'll probably change at some point.
Yes, Paul?
Paul Mansell, M212 Man Street. Question about the internet. We ever going to see a homepage and have agendas placed on it? Used to be fairly close. I know I was here the night that he gave his spiel. So he fixed the town of Stockton, so I'm wondering when he's going to fix the town.
If you look on the website now, it's posted, all the chair people, all the supervisors, their current contact information is all on the homepage.
I'm talking about an agenda, so we know when the meetings
The
are.
agenda's on the website right now.
When was that?
That would have been Tuesday night when I left. The gentleman that handles our internet posting, see, in order to post something, we have to send it to our web administrator in Junction City, and they post it. And he did it the next day. He sent me an email saying, done.
Did you check it?
No, I didn't check it. You
I
said done.
tried to get on it and I don't see anything.
There's not an agenda on
No,
it? Okay.
you're welcome.
Yeah, I can do that, thank you.
Okay, we have approval of town board meeting minutes for July 9th, 2018.
On item number 12, when we discussed the budget, there was a difference between the revenues and the expenditures of, it was listed as $112,120.11. That difference is, if you had added up what the difference between the, excuse me, let me back up. There's other financing uses that's listed as $112,120.11. And you arrived at that by subtracting the difference between revenues and expenditures on your budget. Once you subtracted your $12,000 in additional legal fees and $1,000 additional for the 2006 truck, that actually adds up to $111,120.11. So it's just a typo of $1,000. So I recommend that you correct that, because when I did your budget, that's the number of what's necessary to balance.
I'll move that we approve the town board minutes of July 9th with Mike's correction to number 12.
Second.
Okay, I wanted to stick in, there is another thing that needs to be corrected in number 11. Ken and Karen Seahafer, CSM. Motion by Swenson Steins to approve the Doug and Julie Seahafer. That
Okay.
needs to be Ken and Karen.
Ken and Karen.
Doug may not like Kenny. Or Kenny approving Doug's stuff, so. Okay, all right. So we do have, with that, we do have a motion and seconded to approve the minutes of July 9th, 2018. Is there any further discussion?
Okay, roll call vote. Bob,
Yes.
Dave,
Aye.
Carolyn.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0.
Okay,
Chair, I'd like to alter the agenda and move the community picnic event and appointment of town committee up next on the unfinished business.
and also the appointed clerk treasurer. Those two things moved up to the top of the,
Yeah.
it's not unfinished, but we do need to, Bob is gonna have to leave, and at that point, without the other two supervisors, that will be the, whenever his hour is up, or when he has to leave, that will be the end of what we can work on. So, the motion has been made, and do we have you seconded?
Second.
So, any further discussion on that? Okay, then we will vote to change the order of the items 11 and 12 up to the beginning of unfinished business. All in favor?
Oh,
Hmm?
Aye.
Bob, aye. Dave,
Aye.
Carolyn.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0.
Okay. We'll go right into community picnic event plan and appointment of town committee. We will plan, I will appoint a committee so that we have the ability to give you the funds to have the picnic. Did you want to speak to that, Lee, about what we need?
Well, it'd be a board vote on who the committee is. We were discussing this last time. I took it to be a town committee, and then I guess some people realized afterwards it was never appointed as a committee. You need that authority from the board to spend the town money and everything, so just housekeeping here to get that officially done.
Most- Yes, Dorothy.
Kevin Steins has offered to be our committee head.
Oh, good, okay. So I would like to appoint then Kevin Steins as the supervisor to be on there, Dorothy Olson, Paul Mansell, and Deb. That will be the committee for the picnic.
Okay, one more time on the members
Okay, Kevin Steins,
as the chair.
Dorothy Olson,
Okay,
Paul Mansell, and Deb Durfus.
Can I ask a question quick? You've got the thing for the DJ, that's gonna be $350. Okay, we need a check for that day when she's there. We're also gonna have a tent for, what is it, 160 if we get the tent. We're going to get Mackey gift certificates, so we'll need a check prior to going and picking them up. We'll have to have a check when we go to Walmart to pick up bicycles and things there. And how do you want to handle groceries? We'd like to use the charge card for the, hear me out before you shake your head. For the, because it is a town charge card. For the festival, so we get the tax exemption on that. And then what I'd like to do is turn in the receipt and you guys authorize payment on that right away so it does not screw up the Fall Fest.
Yeah, that was the reason that I
Okay.
was shaking my head, because we went to charge things for Fall
Last
Fest
year and we ran into a
yeah,
problem.
we ran
But
into
if we
a
turn
problem.
that in right away, as soon as we get those groceries, which we can't do until the morning of, then I'll get that turned into Mike on Monday and he can issue a check right away, so that clears that before Fall Festival.
Okay, well, we have a motion, do we have a motion to approve this
Committee?
committee?
Also move.
Okay, second? I'll second it. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the picnic committee.
Either in this motion or a separate one, can you state the purpose of the committee? To carry out probably the community picnic, would be what you want to say.
I'll move that we appoint Kevin Steins, Dorothy Olson, Paul Mansell, Deb Durfus to the community picnic and to carry out the duties that they're appointed to do
The whole
for the
thing.
28th of August.
For the 26th of August.
26th of August, okay.
Correct.
Okay, I'll second
any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote, Bob,
Nay.
Dave,
Aye.
Carolyn,
it. Aye.
motion carries 2-1.
Okay, now Deb, if you would just make out your list.
Yeah, but we don't know exactly what the groceries are going to be.
Well, I don't mean the groceries.
And I don't
mean
have
that,
an
but
invoice
all
yet.
that you're telling about, you have this
Yeah,
list of things, so just, you need to.
If I have, we went to Walmart already and I'd like to get an invoice on what it's gonna cost us. And we could turn that in at the next meeting and then get the check so we can go pick the stuff up. Is that gonna be an issue? Shouldn't be, because you're gonna be issuing a check in, well, you're the board.
Well, there's 2 signatures, 3 signatures
They-
required on the check.
Yeah, they just authorized you to do this and
Mhm.
the money's already allocated. So
But
I
we
don't-
need to make sure we're gonna get those checks on, so we can get that stuff.
Well, the board meeting is
Right.
coming up,
Right,
the next, regular board meeting, so they should be approved at that point, if you have them in there.
Okay.
But
Well,
you need
the-
to get them in, because here's the problem now, it's not a problem. It is a change, in that Mike is here only on Monday and Tuesday, so you're gonna need to do it quickly.
well, that's just the thing, trying to get the invoices and everything. I don't know if we will have them from Walmart at that time. We should have a real good idea of what it's gonna be, but we need the check issued to us probably the 25th, so that we can, or by that date. So if we end up getting it in after the next meeting, are we gonna be able to get this? That's my question. Is that gonna be an issue?
It's up to you. I mean, you wanna handle it like you do utility bills?
Sure, that's fine, because we've already approved the money.
But just so we know where we're sitting on this, so.
Do you want to
And-
vote to pre-approve some of the spending?
Yes, we will. Let's finish this first,
Well, this,
unless it involves this.
yes, I think this was just a misunderstanding when Kevin called Mike to find out how, you know, we wanted, you know, how he wanted to handle this, whether we did invoices, whether we brought in, you know, what they wanted. I think that was where a misunderstanding came through, thinking that we were already asking for money. We
We
weren't.
weren't.
We were not.
Okay. Okay, so can we have, Dave, you wanna make the motion, you're good at this?
Restate what I already did.
To pre-approve
Some spending.
the spending from the amount of money that we,
Already allocated,
yes,
which was 25. I'll move that we give authority to the picnic event plan and appointment committee authority to purchase what they need for August 26th picnic out of the funds that were pre-approved for that purpose.
you got it, Mike?
Yep.
I'll second it.
Discussion?
Yes,
So, my concern about this community picnic is the timing. I brought that up at the last meeting. And there's a concern that it's competing with Fall Festival. That's a critically important fundraiser for the fire department. So I want to go on record again as explaining my reasoning behind my voting against having the picnic, voting against setting up a committee. I'm all in favor for community team building and for having the picnic, but I wasn't personally aware of this idea of having a picnic until the July board meeting for a picnic that's could be very important to happen in August. So I don't feel like I was given enough time to think about this. And I would hope in the future that we would be given advanced notice of this, and that any picnic would be more than 2 months set apart from the 28 year in a row fall festival that we've been having.
30 years.
30 years.
30.
30 this year.
It was also brought up at the annual meeting, and you were there, Bob.
But not the date.
No, not the date, but the
Yeah,
picnic.
and that's what the
I'm concerned about
problem
the
is the date.
I'd also like to reflect that at the last board meeting, I did not approve of that being that close to Fall Festival.
Mhm.
This is gonna be the last time. It's gonna be in the month of August or the last half of July at least. That picnic, community picnic, should be the first part in June or the first half of July. And no closer than that to the Fall Festival. That's the only reason I made the motion to appoint the committee. Take that any way you like it.
Excuse me, but in our defense, okay, this was brought up at the annual meeting, and it was brought up a few different times, and the board did nothing.
Let's move on.
Okay, all right. All right, we'll vote.
Bob,
Nay.
Dave,
Aye.
Carolyn,
Aye.
motion carries 2-1.
The other question is that if, you know, I don't know that you have ever spoken to me about whether you were gonna sell beer or give, or
No.
you just put your name in a hat and draw it out and what have you, I don't.
There's no money.
So
No money
there's no
exchanged.
raffle because,
No.
because the fire department does all of that.
Mhm.
So what's?
It's the same as last year. There is no, we're not selling any beer, we're not selling any tickets, there is no money exchange whatsoever.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on. Appointed clerk and treasurer versus elected clerk and treasurer ordinance and referendum regarding the same. Okay,
So, I guess I'll start from the beginning. So, I was able to issue the town board of legal opinion the other day. It's public record, I don't have it in front of me, but someone can have mine if they want. essentially, we were finally able to find adequate proof that the 1998 ordinance was adopted and appears to have been adopted correctly. So we're on firm legal footing that we have an appointed clerk and treasurer at this point in time. So, going from that, that's the status quo. And I was able to draw up a draft ordinance for the board. This is it right here. And again, something that mine if you want it. Making the necessary ordinance changes to make that happen. So in that respect, they have something in front of them if they want to vote to adopt it at whatever point. As I said at the last meeting, they can do that as long as before November 1st, it'd still be on the next April ballot. So I also drew up real briefly a referendum question, which would be purely optional. There was some interest in maybe having a referendum on the issue, so I drew up the question. That has to be adopted, as was mentioned, in a timely fashion for, say, the November election, which would be the next one. Pretty much just about now, and have to consider whether to do that referendum question or not. So everything's prepared and in front of the board. Does anyone want this?
You want to read it?
I'll let you have it now. So this was the opinion and some the materials I went with it. Here's the draft ordinance. I don't see the draft referendum question.
It's-
Is that the back sheet?
We didn't get one because he drafted it.
Oh,
Oh,
it's like one sentence. You can pass those around.
Where's your vision?
okay. Do we want to, here, the statement is appointed clerk and treasurer versus elected clerk and treasurer, ordinance and referendum regarding the same. So, with the material that Lee was able to present to us, that vote in 1998 was to have an appointed position. And it was spelled out very clearly. The vote went to referendum and it was defeated soundly. That it was approved soundly that we would have an appointed position. That is in effect today. Now, I know that you feel that within the community is fine, but do we want to limit ourselves to that, being just within the community? We would never have found Mike. He would not be in this position and he will have to go, and he's very good, if this goes to elected. Now, I don't know what the chances are that this would be approved or denied. I don't know going forth to make it elected. When you have an elected position, you have to be 18 and you have to be free of a felony. Those are the only recommendations. That's it. You have no ability to question what they might know about anything, as far if they have any experience, etc. And let me tell you, if you're going to hire somebody into this position, and we've tried and we've had, as you know, many people feel they can come in and do this, and they may be qualified in the work they're doing, but when it comes to the clerk position, people do not realize what this position really entails. And that's why they're here for a few days, a week or two, and say, I can't do this. That's why the education of what the difference is very important on this situation. I feel that we have this in place as he is, we know we have this in place. And so therefore, that's just, the education I think is very important here. So, do we have a motion to approve a new ordinance and referendum regarding this? The elected position.
Carol, may I ask just a question? Is this a simple clarification question?
Yes,
From my previous reading, because I'm the one that made the motion, and
Yes.
if you had, in our township with less than 2,500, if you were to approve this change as a board, we don't need a referendum, do we?
we
I asked the
understand that.
attorney. I thought that was clear. If you've gone more than 2 years, if you switch from elected to appointed, you can go back to elected if you make the ordinance.
That's correct.
We don't need a referendum.
Correct.
So it's just strictly up to you.
Correct.
It's
Yes,
strictly up to this board. It's not up, you make the decision. If you decide to go to elected, it's done. We don't need an ordinance, is what I read.
Well, you need an ordinance, you
you
don't
need an
need
ordinance.
a referendum.
We don't need a
A
referendum.
referendum is not required.
Thank you. So you just need an ordinance,
Yes.
That's
You would
legal
be-
requirement, that's correct.
which the board can do.
And I guess my question to you at this point is why do you want this elected?
Why would I want it elected? I think if you have it elected, number one, those people basically are elected and they basically serve the township. They don't have to abide by everything that you may want. It may stop some of the turnover. 85% of the 85% of the townships elect them. You know, we're in a minority. So I mean, I'm not, going to go and set myself on fire if you decide to leave it appointed, trust me. But I just think they're going by what most people do, which is elected, and having people that are responsible to the citizens and not to the board. It's just the way I feel.
Okay, thank you.
As long as we're having open discussion on this topic, I would very much agree with Carol, and my concern would be that if these positions are elected, there's no way to screen for the qualifications and education and appropriateness of that individual for office. I think the current system works. We set up a committee to appoint and to review applicants and applications for these positions, and then the board acts on the recommendations of the committee. I'm also personally very pleased with the current personnel in these offices. I feel they have the right experience, qualifications, skills, and work ethic to carry out these roles very well.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'd just like to make another comment. I think we're in a unique position here, being adjacent to the city of Marshfield. The interface between the rural and the medical community is important. I think we, over the years, have been able to work very well with that interface. Some of my best friends and neighbors are from the medical community. Some of them aren't. We're here to administrate over $1 million in taxpayers. That's basically only 17 to 20 cents out of every dollar you pay. And you make your check out to the town of McMillan, we have the say-so between 17 and 20 cents, basically. That isn't a whole lot. The rest is school district taxes, county taxes. Where do we get the biggest bang for our buck? It's on the local level. We still have to have a professional person that is able to figure out this mess. And we went through this, the changes we've had in the last few years. One clerk does their filing this way. One clerk does their filing that way. One clerk does their filing a different way. Where in the heck are you gonna find this stuff you need when people come in and ask for it? Because everybody has a different way of doing things. I think with the number of dollars that are going through this budget, the number of people that are accountable in the township, we need professional people to be a clerk and a treasurer. Elected, we're going back to the good old boys time again, and I don't like that, because we've been there, done that.
Carolyn, is this still open to discussion?
No, we're not really.
Well-
At this point, I've already asked call for the motion. So,
She did go.
It's available.
so is there do we want to, approve moving forward with an ordinance for, an elected position? Or are we comfortable with staying with what we have that is in effect at this day and time?
I'm comfortable with what we have at this point in time.
I am also.
Okay, do you want to take a vote on that? We need to make it a formal motion, please.
Which would be,
I do want to make one other comment. I know that there's a handful of people in this community that have been unhappy with some of the people that we have had in the past. And now is not the time to go through business in the community with a vendetta against someone in particular. This is not what this is about. This is what you're going to be able to find, who you're going to be able to find with the best qualifications to move forward. Now, Joe didn't say that the people that he had that applied were very well qualified, except there was no experience in most of them in clerk work. And let me tell you, that is so important. It is absolutely important to have that experience, because it's a huge job that most people don't realize what is behind it. So, may I have a motion?
So I'll make a motion to maintain the positions of clerk and treasurer as appointed positions.
I'll second that.
Is there any further discussion? Okay,
Roll call vote. Bob.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Carolyn.
aye,
Motion carries 3-0.
okay. Okay, we'll go back to our list here. 2018 budget amendments, or
Checks.
checks to approve would be the next one.
I've got summarized at the bottom of your check listing report, check numbers 15718 through 15754, and electronic fund transfer numbers 1755 to 1757, with the notation that check numbers 15755 through 15761 were printed out as duplicates in QuickBooks and stamped void.
I'll make a motion to approve EFT 1755 to 1757 and checks 15718 to 15754 with the stipulation that checks 15755 to 15755 to 15761 were printed as duplicates and stamped void.
I'll second that.
Okay, the motion has been made to approve the electronic transfers 1755 through 1757. Checks 15718 through 15754. Except what was it, what else?
With the notes or the exception that 15755 to 15761
Oh.
were printed as duplicates and stamped void.
Okay, is there any discussion?
Just like to point out that, City of Marshfield got $26,787 for ambulance installment. There's a pass-through as an example. In, the spring, when Carolyn was gone, I signed a check for $1.5 million for the school district of Marshfield. That's another pass-through. It makes it kind of nervous when you sign a check for over $1 million.
I never had that problem.
But I feel comfortable doing it, knowing that the numbers were there.
Okay.
Mike, can you explain briefly the duplicates? Do you know?
Yeah, there's a function in QuickBooks that you can hit like checks only or a button that says bold, and the bold button will print out a receipt or kind of like a duplicate, and I had bold checked instead, so that's why.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, roll call vote, Bob.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Carolyn.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0.
Okay, the next thing is issue regular operator licenses to servers.
Okay, I wanted, at your last meeting, you approved a provisional alcohol server licenses for Larry Wenzel, Bernard Wenzel, and Richard Quirt Jr. And since that time, the criminal background checks have been completed, all of which were successful. Nothing turned up whatsoever. So at this time, I asked if you would make a motion to grant operator licenses for Larry Wenzel, Bernard Wenzel, and Richard Quirt Jr. And we will issue them regular operator licenses then.
Okay, I'll make a motion to issue regular operator licenses to Bernard Wenzel, Larry Wenzel, and what's the other?
Richard
Quirt.
Richard Quirt.
Junior.
Second.
Carlos. Okay. Any further discussion?
Okay, roll call vote then. Bob?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Carolyn?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0.
Okay, the next one is designate the clerk's term as 1 year or until the third Monday of April. The position is converted to an elected office. We're not going to move forward on that, so we will mark that off. Okay.
Did you, it was an agenda item because you wanted to make the language consistent with the treasurer's language?
I would just say this, you got appointed the month before the treasurer. So if you guys want them to have the same expiration term, I don't know if that's important to you or not, but they would not be the same unless you change them. It's
Well-
not necessary at all.
It isn't necessary, but Russ did say something to me about how they were usually, in the past, were opposite years. So that you at least have one, or however it went.
It was when it was elected.
Oh.
Is that, he was talking about when it was elected, they
Oh,
fall on the same
oh,
year
okay.
or opposite years.
Okay,
That's what he was asking.
okay.
Should we put no action taken?
Well, or we can
Or-
just make it,
You don't need to-
we don't need anything, I guess. Okay. 2018 budget amendments.
I loaded all of the numbers into QuickBooks, took about 6 hours between correcting the account numbers that are really just heading numbers and dollar amounts associated with it. So you've got a budget versus actual report that I should have some highlighting on that for you. This. So that's where we're at. Okay, on the revenue side, there's a whole bunch of numbers that are marked zero. All your taxes, your dog licensing. Well, you can see there's like 8 items. None of those numbers have been loaded into QuickBooks yet. That's all gonna be part of the, as soon as I have to balance the checkbook and reconcile the bank statement for all the accounts, checking accounts, savings accounts, CDs, going back to November 30th. So when I start that process, which will be next, because I've loaded your budget in, then we'll start adding tax revenues back into this. So you'll see some revenue. So I just want to highlight that. There are several, and then if you look at the very back page, one of the last items before total expenditures, the other miscellaneous finance uses, that's where your $111,120.11 that we talked about earlier when we approved the previous meeting's minutes, that's where that number lands. So that tied your budget together so that revenues and expenditures balanced after you increased legal fees by $12,000 and the 2006 truck expenditures by $1,000. So that's where you're at. There's like 32 housekeeping items related to this budget that I wrote on the old budget. If I could get you to take a look at that spreadsheet which would be your line item budget that you approved, that looks like this, you guys. Okay. We'll go to that front page, and I don't know if my highlighting showed up on that for you or not, but one thing that I noticed, under other revenue, Fall Fest, it's like third from the bottom. You didn't have a number assigned for the revenue. Was that by design?
Fall Fest?
Yeah.
Fall Fest is usually not in the budget.
Okay, but it looks like that we're just tracking the expenditures, but not necessarily the revenues.
We do they put it in after the fact.
After the fact, yeah.
Yeah, so as the bills come due, they start to populate in there,
Mm-hmm.
and the revenue will probably populate in there, but, okay, that's fine. And then my other question is with regard to recycling. I know you do things a little bit differently. You have for recycling, you have that consortium.
And garbage.
And garbage, yeah, you have the special charges, not special assessment, but special charges on the tax roll for garbage collection. But do you assess for the recycling?
No.
You don't?
No,
Okay, and then
that is the town's responsibility
and then
for
there's
recycling.
there's a DNR grant available for recycling. Do you have the consortium file for that?
Yes,
And then it probably comes out of your net due to them?
correct.
Okay, so then
Because the secretary applies the DNR for that.
Yes, every
Okay,
year.
Okay, that's good.
And that's part of the Northwest Recycling
Yeah.
budget.
Yep, that explains that one. Okay, if we flip over to the third page where your expenditures are. First one, legislative, 51,100. There is $150 allocated toward that account. That account number is a heading account. No money lands in it. It should be assigned to one of the sub-accounts of 51,100. So what I did was I designated that $150 in a sub-account. I just moved it into printing and postage. So if that's okay with you, I'm just gonna write down, I'll have several moves like this. If we could kind of gain a consensus as we go along, and then include maybe the whole grocery list of the changes when we're done. And then we'll get through whatever we can get through before you have to go.
4 minutes.
You got 4 minutes, we might not get much done then.
What is the timing? Do we have to approve the budget at this meeting? Is that critically important?
I think the main thing is I'm presenting you with a budget versus actual report, which you haven't had yet.
So, we're not voting.
Well, there's some housekeeping on here that you could.
Okay, are there any things in absolutely that need to be done at this point?
I think we can let it ride for 2 weeks.
I wonder whether we want to consider having a finance committee that would help with some of these housekeeping issues and review everything in detail, and then bring it with Mike to future board meetings so that we know people have had an opportunity to go over all these changes in detail, ask questions, work with Mike, support him, work with the company that we're hiring to come in. I don't know that we need to make a decision on that today, but I think it may be worthwhile to have a finance committee. I don't know if that's common, in other municipalities, or if you've seen that done.
I'm sure there's places that do it, and I mean, you probably just need one right now, as you're getting this back in order.
Right.
Probably
Yeah,
need
it could be temporary.
Right.
And this kind of stuff has kind of got the look and the feel of a regular budget meeting that you have in the fall.
And we do have budget workshops where we all participate. And usually more than one.
We had as many as 3 before it was.
Yes, before we actually do. So I don't know what your feeling is on that, Mike.
The alternative is, instead of a committee, is to have one of these budget
Just have a
workshops.
special meeting, you have what I would call a special meeting.
Yeah, they're a workshop, actually, yeah. And people, anybody can come,
Yeah. Okay,
Let's think about that.
yeah.
okay. So, so you have that, I mean, I've listed there's 32 line items of just kind of questions I have that, how we tackle them, I guess is up to you guys.
I think that points out the example of how many clerks or treasurers we've had. And like I said before, everybody does things a little bit different. And for us to follow that with the transitions that we've had has been difficult. And that leaves questions in my mind once in a while. I'm sure it does anybody out there that isn't here every month or doesn't get a chance to look at the budget. So, that being said,
There was a comment made some time back that we need to do more than just add 5% every year. We haven't done that in years,
yeah.
as far as I know, not since I've been here. So, I mean, it's really, we go down item by item in our workshops. And it's a responsibility of the fire department to bring theirs forward, and public works and what have you, so. It works well, Bob, it really does. So, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
I mean, because we can't really, we won't have a quorum here then to finish, so.
Well, I mean, like I said, one of the reasons that I had asked for a second meeting this month is to take care of the work.
Yeah,
You know, I didn't have any idea that, we'd be missing 2 of our
yeah,
members, to get the work done, but, because like I said, we can afford to have a really long meeting the night before the election, so.
well, it can't be helped at this point, so. Okay,
I just want to make a comment in response to one of the questions and comments earlier about the timing of the meetings. I want to apologize on behalf of the board that sometimes these meetings come up quickly and sometimes they occur at a time that's not convenient. I think this meeting came up suddenly because we realized that there were very time-sensitive issues that we needed to address. And part of the reason for this meeting occurring at 11 o'clock in the morning is that I personally am not available for the next couple of evenings with travel. So I apologize for that in advance.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Every effort, I think, will be made in the future to announce meetings well in advance, to have those meetings at convenient times, and to be cognizant of people's schedules.
Thank you. Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded to adjourn.
Wow.
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Carolyn?
Carolyn. Now that we adjourn.
Before we adjourn?
No, now that we're adjourned, you asked me a question earlier.
Yeah.
You asked me to come in. I'm
Wait a
I'm
minute.
talking to Carolyn here, just one on one.
Just a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, can you just go talk to them individually?
Yes.
What?
The meeting's over, so you can talk to her.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I'd like the citizens to hear this.
Okay.
Okay. You asked me a question as to why I wanted to change to elected, besides the fact that 85%. And I didn't want to bring it up, but being you brought it up, I will. You made the comment, and I hope you weren't looking at me when you said that there's some people who've had some vendettas, because whoever these people are, I don't even know them. I don't know any of these people who ever served. One of the things I'd like to see is a much more functional McMillan Township. And one of the things that I thought, and many people think, is that by going to elected officials, we may be able to help that. And that was my feeling. Get rid of the, well, it's because of the board that these people are here and what they did. Let the citizens elect them. That was my main thing. And I still feel that.
Well,
I